Star Wars, The Hoth Adventure. Read aloud by Big Papa Scott. The Rebel Alliance had destroyed the evil Empire's gigantic battle station, the Death Star. It was a great victory, but since then the Imperial leader, Darth Vader, had driven the rebels from their hidden base and pursued them across the galaxy. On the distant ice planet Hoth, the rebels had built another secret base. Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, two heroes of the rebellion, patrolled the barren frozen landscape on furry Tautons. They were keeping watch for signs of enemy forces. "There isn't enough life on this ice cube to fill a space cruiser," Han radioed to Luke. "I'm heading back." "There's a meteorite that hit the ground near here," Luke answered. "I want to check it out." As Han headed back to the base, Luke's Tauntaun reared nervously. Suddenly, a huge shadow loomed over Luke. It was a Wampa ice creature. Before the young hero could react, the Wampa had swung its giant claw. Luke fell to the ground unconscious. When Luke came to, he found himself hanging upside down from the ceiling of the Wampa's icy cave. The young hero was tired and cold, but he had to act quickly to plan his escape. He had no intention of becoming the monster's next meal. Luke spotted his lightsaber on the ground, just out of reach. To get it back, he'd have to use the Force, a special energy field he'd learned about from the Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi. Suddenly, a horrible roar echoed through the cave. The Wampa was coming towards Luke. The young hero closed his eyes and felt the power of the Force flow through his fingertips. He reached out, and the lightsaber jumped into his hand. But by now the Wampa was only a few feet away. With one stroke, Luke cut himself free. Then, with a quick sweep of the blue blade, he fought off the Wampa and raced out of the cave. Luke stumbled across the frozen landscape, injured and weak. The temperature was dropping, and he would need help to make it back to base. But time was running out. Suddenly, the Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi appeared to Luke in a vision. "You will go to the Dagobah system," Obi-Wan told Luke. "There you will learn from Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me." Back at the Rebel base, the droid C-3PO delivered a message to Han Solo. "Princess Leia is wondering about Master Luke," C-3PO said. "He hasn't come back yet. Nobody knows where he is." "Nobody?" Han asked, looking out at the fading light. It was getting darker and colder, and Luke was out there. Han jumped onto a Tauntaun and raced into the night to find his friend. It was almost impossible to see through the blinding snow, but using a sensor, Han was able to detect a faint sign of life. He rode towards it and found Luke half buried in the snow. "Hang on, kid," Han said. They could not make it back to the base in the storm, so Han made a shelter to keep them warm through the night. The next morning, a rebel search team found Han and Luke and took them back to the base. Soon Luke was being lowered into a bacta tank to heal his wounds. Before long, Luke had completely recovered. His friends were glad to see him back to his usual self. "You look strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundark," Han teased him. "Thanks to you," Luke said with a smile. Bad news soon interrupted the happy reunion. The rebels had picked up on a strange signal not far from their base. Han and his Wookiee sidekick Chewbacca quickly track the signal to an Imperial probe droid out in the snow. Suddenly, the droid fired its lasers at Chewie, but Han shot back with his blaster, and the droid exploded. "It's a good bet the Empire knows we're here," Han reported to Princess Leia over the comm link. "There's no time to lose. With the Imperials on their way, the rebels would have to flee at once." While most of the rebels got ready to abandon the base, Luke and a few other pilots climbed onto their snow speeders. They were going to try to hold off the enemy while the others fled. The rebels had barely gotten their defenses in place when the invasion began. Huge Imperial AT-AT walkers lumbered toward the rebel base, blasting everything in their path. Luke led the other pilots in the rebel attack. He swooped past one walker, blasting at it with his laser cannons, but the huge machine was hardly even scratched. "The armor is too strong for blasters," he radioed to the other pilots. "Go for the legs. It might be our only chance of stopping them." "Watch that crossfire, boys," Luke warned the other speeder pilots, dodging and darting among Imperial laser blasts. Suddenly, Luke's speeder caught enemy fire. A second later, it plummeted into the snow. Shaken but not hurt, Luke struggled to free himself from the cockpit. He slipped out and rolled away from the speeder, just before it was crushed beneath the massive foot of a walker. Luke drew his harpoon gun and fired. Snap! A thin cable shot out of the gun and attached to the underside of the walker. Luke quickly zipped up to the top of the cable. Igniting his lightsaber, he slashed a hole in the AT-AT's belly and tossed a grenade inside. Luke dropped down to the ground, and a second later, the grenade exploded. Smoke poured out of the mammoth walker as it toppled over in a broken heap. The walker soon overpowered the rebel snow speeders and ground soldiers. Then they moved on to their real target, the main power generator of the rebel base. The evil Darth Vader arrived in his transport just as the troops invaded the rebel base. He was eager to capture the rebel leaders, especially brave Luke Skywalker. As for Luke, he made his way back through the snow to the base. The astromech droid R2-D2 was already aboard Luke's X-Wing fighter, eager to take off. The little droid beeped nervously. "Don't worry, R2," Luke assured him. "We're going." Inside the base, Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and C-3PO raced towards Han's ship, the Millennium Falcon. Darth Vader and his squad of snowtroopers were fast on their heels. While the snowtroopers fired at the Falcon, Han frantically tried to get the ship off the ground. "Would it help if I got out and pushed?" Leia asked sarcastically. "It might," Han snapped back. Just then the Falcon's engine roared to life. "Punch it!" Han shouted to Chewbacca, and they blasted off. Luke and R2-D2 were making a successful getaway as well. While the others regrouped, Luke followed the advice of the old Jedi teacher Obi-Wan Kenobi. He steered his X-Wing towards the Dagobah system in search of the mighty Jedi Master Yoda. Darth Vader had driven the rebels from their secret base on Hoth, but he had failed in his quest to capture them. The Rebel Alliance had survived to fight another day. Their struggle for freedom would continue. The end. Please like and subscribe. Check out the gifts in the description. Please support me at patreon.com/BigPapaScott. I'd really appreciate it